Welcome to The Funniest Thing.
Yes.
Where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from CHOBO Studios.
In beautiful downtown Van Nuys.
Yes, that's sunny California, folks.
Yes.
But before we go any further, I think Ed wants to say something nice about our Patreon contributors.
Yeah, we want to thank you all for contributing to the show. It is amazing. We love coming in and having you be part of the show in this way. It's really helpful for us. So the show, if you'd like to contribute to the show, go to patreon.com/funniest thing, and you can contribute any amount you like. We have some preset ways to make it easy, but bottom line is we appreciate you contributing and allowing us or supporting us in sharing these principles that are so transformative, that work. Any problem anyone could possibly have can be resolved and solved and transformed using these principles. So again, patreon.com/funniest thing to contribute to the show. And we love you all. And we have a great show today.
That's right. Because you don't always get what you wish for. And Eric Butterworth will even goes as far to saying you don't always get what you pray for. But because of the spiritual laws that are in effect, you always will get what you expect.
That's right. And today's show is called We Always Get What We Expect with Johnny Franzese. Prayer is simply inviting divine help into our affairs and expecting it to go to work. This is the great truth hammered home by Jesus. It is why gratitude in advance is the most powerful creative force in the universe. Mary Kupferle summed it up perfectly when she reminded us to relax. Know that God is leading us out of what appears to be less than the best and into the very best. On this episode, Darrell and Ed, that's us, will encourage listeners to stop thinking about the things we would like to move away from and start thinking about the things we are moving toward. And during the second segment, joyful Johnny Franzese, a.k.a. Matt Pazzarelli, has us all expecting the best for ourselves and each other with today's daily word, which is prosperity.
Yes, stop complaining about what you don't want and start dreaming about the good you do want.
That's right. And on today's episode, I think we're going to really drop into this awareness that our lives are an outpicturing of our consciousness. Sometimes it feels like a hard pill to swallow, but actually it's like coughing up all the crap we've been swallowing and letting ourselves breathe and enjoy life, which is... And I was thinking that will lead us into our breaths. What were you thinking?
Well, I know we want to save this for the letter reading, but what you just said, I got to read this because this is amazing.
You have your glasses?
Yeah, I got glasses.
Okay.
What you just said, we normally just get folks, we're throwing things. See,
it's funny because
we're going with the flow.
This is the first time ever at CHOBO, at least, and maybe one of the first times ever that we actually had to restart the show in the beginning. But in the beginning, for some reason, Darrell's intuitive nature thought we should read this postcard on the first time around, even though we never read it in the front. But it must have been calling to us. And now we know why. So what do you got for us?
Well, what Ed just said, just to reinforce that.
And this is a postcard from Kirky, by the way, in Germany. We thank you.
Yes, if you're looking on, we can give it up there. He always puts something funny about either one of us on the front. Here it says, "My head is being mended." And it's a cartoon with a decapitated person. And
is that you?
My head flying off it, about to go be mended.
That's
and
right.
Hopefully put back on.
And that's exactly what we do each morning with our morning routine.
And in Germany, apparently, they have a new national stamp. We're not going to be able to see this, but take my word for it. I'm holding up if you're watching on YouTube. It is, it's actually Mary Baker Eddy, as in Ed Biagiotti.
So let them know. If you guys watch on YouTube, you can see it. Please go to the YouTube channel, Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Like and subscribe things on that. And Yeah, you there. That way you get to see all the good stuff that's happening as well as hear it.
So in addition to a good sense of humor, this is what's on the back. And that's another thing to really get out of any difficulty. You have to be able to laugh at yourself or the situation and know that God is in charge. Because more seriousness, it's like a Chinese handcuff. It actually,
when you put your fingers in there,
and the more you pull and try to get out of it, the harder it grips, and it becomes impossible to release. And the only way to get out of the Chinese handcuff is to let your fingers move towards each other, the exact opposite of what you would think to do to get out of a situation. And that's what a lot of these spiritual principles, they seem to be the exact opposite of what, well, they are. They're the exact opposite of what tends to be the general consensus.
Yes, because a lot of times the consensus, whether we realize it or not, is based on fear.
Yes, there you go. But like Ed said at the beginning of the show, I'm just going to read this because it syncs it up perfectly. It says, the only way to change your expressions of life is to change your consciousness. For consciousness is the reality that eternally codifies itself in the things round about you. Man's world in its every detail is his consciousness outpictured. You can no more change your environment or world by destroying things than you can your reflection by destroying the mirror. Your environment and all within it reflects that which you are in consciousness.
You know,
that's from Neville Goddard, by the way.
Before we get into the breaths, Darrell came up with some really good breaths. And
this is another amazing thing.
So once again, I decided to bring the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Thanks to my friend Maloney, Jennifer Maloney, Darrell and I's good friend, who's an amazing teacher. And,
yes, she occasionally gives us, I guess, what's known in the in this realm as a spiritual booty call.
That's right. That's right. It was an uplifting text we got.
By uplifting text, dropping us an unexpected uplifting text.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That gets us spiritually aroused to have a wonderful day. Anyway, Maloney recommended this here book. And I found it in a thrift store, as I mentioned on the last episode. I brought it again today. And no, I think last night I picked it up. That's what it was. And this is good because before we get really into the medicine, it's often good to reflect on what do our minds really do that feel so bad or get us into trouble or feel so troublesome.
Yes.
And on page 136, she says, "Oh, the drama we create for ourselves. We're so deeply wrapped up in our stories. I don't have the money. I'm not good enough. I can't quit my job. I'm lazy. I have bad hair. Trudging through life with our heads down, clinging to our false beliefs like lifeboats full of doo-doo. What we prevent ourselves from seeing, we prevent ourselves from seeing the literally infinite sea of possibilities and opportunities surrounding us at every moment." She says, what you choose to focus on becomes your reality, and that's a spiritual principle. So why would you create anything that's not totally awesome? I mean, we're only talking about your life here. If you chose to get over all your reasons why the money you so desire is evil, or your identity as someone who's scared of intimacy, or your attachment to a plethora of other excuses that you perceive to be very serious and real, when they're really probably kind of cute and ridiculous, you could literally create any reality you want. So what's amazing about that, too, is the bookmark I used last night was something that came from our friend Michael Schoonover in San Diego. And he's been on the show. He's an amazing metaphysician, New Thought Unity minister.
Is that an old daily word?
This is from... What is this? He sends us packets. It's monthly thoughts, prayers by Silent Unity, text from the writing of Charles Fillmore.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So, it's from the original Unity magazine, when Unity magazine used to be just full of New Thought truth, not promoting books and things that are, and personalities. It used to just share the medicine, as we like to say. And so anyway, under the heading, this was the bookmark from the Sincero book that I happened to slide in there last night. And I found this reading just before the show. It says, prosperity. Do not hold yourself in poverty by the fear of lack and by practicing a pinching economy. If you believe that all the Father has is yours, then there is surely no reason for skimping. Nothing will so broaden your mind and your world as the realization that all is yours. When you realize the boundlessness of your spiritual inheritance, nothing shall be lacking in all your world. See with the bountiful eye, for he that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed. This passage states an exact law, the law of increase.
Yes, you have to switch out quickly from the law of there's not enough in my bank account, or my bank account's dwindling, or it seems like we're spending too much. I better race out and do something about this. It's to not saying some of those things may or may not be facts at the moment.
Right.
But the fear, if you start thinking fearful thoughts in conjunction with those facts, things will only get worse.
Yeah.
However, if those facts bring up fear, like we often remind our listeners and each other, treat the concern foremost. Mm-hmm. And the concern is the fear about the situation.
Yes.
Forget about how I'm going to bring this about. Forget about what I think the situation is or how real it is. Let me just anesthetize the concern with spiritual thoughts or meditation.
Or better yet, heal the darn thing. Forget anesthetizing. Well, transform it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the concern itself,
yes.
I think when that's anesthetized, when I mean anesthetized, I mean put to sleep once and for all. Because I can easily imagine for myself the feeling of my critical mind being anesthetized because I have that memory. I know from the past when...
I think that's why I didn't like it at first, because it's often used in a negative connotation.
Yeah, well, those bozos ruin everything.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I
just like the idea of healing over...
Well, the healing comes once my mind...
Right.
If I took a shot of something, meaning even, the reason... calming the mind, sometimes putting people into an induced coma, I firmly believe myself to a medically induced coma so the body can heal.
Right.
It's because it's anesthetizing the critical part of the mind, the part of the mind that's panicking.
Right.
Subconsciously at that moment. Mm-hmm. So once the concern is then anesthetized, and because in the past I've had experience, being put under for a surgical procedure or even having a couple of shots before something.
Right.
The mind that's worried, when they start counting you down, 10, 9, whatever it is.
Right.
You start going, oh, man, I'm going to be fine. You know what I mean? Because the fearful part of the mind relaxes.
Right.
And when the fearful part of the mind is put to sleep
right,
and not woken up and aroused with more fear, the body relaxes and the healing can take place.
I have to say, though, because I looked up what anesthetize means. It means to put something to sleep, like you're saying. Yeah. But I would, just for the sake of this conversation, and I think you'll agree with this, because it's not, I understand what you're saying, but the difference here is we're waking up. That part's unconscious, and we're waking. That's why no level of anesthetizing is ever permanent.
Right.
Because it's temporarily putting it to sleep, whereas what we're doing is taking that concerned part and waking it up to the truth.
Yes.
And it's just a subtle little difference, but it's really, that's why this is true metaphysics rather than just dealing with things.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about using an outside.
No, I know, but I mean, see, even conceptually,
drug.
One is like waking that part up to the truth, and one is just putting it to sleep temporarily.
Right.
It's just a way of thinking about it.
Yeah,
I
it
hear
is.
what you're saying.
But for my mind, I have a hard time just waking up when my mind is really believing, how are we going to get out of these things? So what I do is I separate the problem from the concern.
Right.
And that idea of I can eliminate this concern.
Yes.
By what I just call it anesthetizing, because I know I've been able to break free from concern.
Yes.
So that's just the only way.
that.
But if I keep the concern and the problem together, but by knowing that I can separate the feeling of concern, and I put it over here, I anesthetize it, and now this problem is no longer a problem. It's almost like, oh, I could deal with this. It's the same sort of total surrender that I have when I trust the doctors as I'm starting to pass out from 10, 9, 8, 7.
Sure.
It creates a complete faith for me, because it just seems to be what's working now.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the thing. I can clearly see now concern and the problem as two different things.
Right.
And once I can break that concern off, that feeling of concern, and eliminate it, it's like, oh, this isn't going to be a big deal. There's a simple solution to this. Or I could start daydreaming in a positive and affirmative way about where the direction of my desire, and that it is really taking shape. Rather than, what's the use? This is never going to happen. Or I got to do all this to make that happen. Blah, blah, blah. This kind of like, okay, the concern is gone. It's almost like happy days are here again. It's like, it's that simple. That's what I'm trying to drive home. That the only thing in the way of anything good in our lives is the feeling of concern.
Agreed. 100%.
And once we can break it away, I don't care if you use anesthetizing as a form of meditation. Whatever you could do to see it, like Butterworth says, treat the concern. You see that the concern and the problem are two different things. And once the concern is been put out of the equation, well, then the problem is no longer seems like an unsurmountable problem.
Well, you actually start to see that the concern is what was supporting the problem. Actually, the concern is what generated the problem in the first place. So I get what you're saying, because it's you're talking about it in a sort of therapeutic approach, just like sometimes when things get extreme, anesthesia is required, and then
most of the time with my thinking, anesthesia is required.
But in the spectrum, the beauty, I say again,
I agree, of
way
course.
of living is that, and it's not, and I'm not just saying it to pick on you or anything else, but it's amazing how this stuff works, because unlike anything else you can do, and that's why these principles are so profound, unlike anything, like any doctor would, who's worth his salt would know, because there's a lot of great doctors who have said it, and you've quoted many of them, which is the patient is the healer.
Always.
So along with the temporary anesthesia or whatever is temporarily being used to treat it, this awakening is happening to the point where there's less anesthesia required, because there's genuine. That's the thing I love about this stuff, is I get transformed and I become something more as we go along.
Well, that's why that's why I also like to relieve people of the burden of thinking I have to say the right words in prayer. I don't know how to pray, or
that's right.
Is this going to work? Or I've done so many things wrong. Because this proves the same thing of the rid of the concern, because the doctors, I don't know who said it, if it was Socrates or one of the earliest physicians in time, or maybe who knows who it was, but you'll see this quote somewhere if you Google it, and it's the purpose of the doctor is to just humor the patient so that the healing can take place, which means grace is always in effect. And even if you're thinking insanity,
Right.
or you think, oh my God, I've done things wrong for so many years.
Right.
The good news is grace is always our ace in the hole.
Yeah.
Because even when I was doing everything wrong, I ended up where I ended up.
Right.
You know, and that was, and, you know, and I know our guest too. He could say the same thing, even though he was, for many years, he was doing everything just like myself. The antithesis of everything we're practicing today with our thinking.
Yeah.
We were doing the exact opposite, and our behavior followed that way of thinking. And in spite of that, grace or love, the most powerful force in the universe, didn't hold any grudges, was always forgiving.
Yes.
Is always forgiving.
It's always moving toward greater expression of life, health, and wholeness.
Yes, so even if you can't get rid of that concern, that's why I use the affirmation. If I can't shake it and I'm still overwhelmed, I just go, you know what? God's bringing it about in spite of my doubts.
Yes.
And I could say that over and over, or do a yes walk every time my left foot hits around yes, and it will break free. And once that concern, like I said, breaks off of whatever the situation is, like recently finances came up yesterday.
Right.
And personal finances for myself and Lori. And I could have easily, I could see my mind, I could easily like stir up the fear.
Yes.
Which seems legitimate when I think about it.
Right.
But then I said, no, I'm just going to click, break that off.
Yes.
Take that concern, throw it over there.
I like that.
And I know that things are going to work out with an attitude of prosperity.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad we're having this discussion because I like this because when you said that, humor the patient while the healing occurs.
Yeah,
the patient is the stressed mind. And so I like this because, and I'm glad that we had this conversation for my own mind, because it's also like if we imagine that we're handing that stressed part of ourselves a shot of alcohol, whatever, and that part just like there's no come down from imagine. It's not the act of relaxing and go. It's all the other crap that comes out when we use toxic things to anesthetize. But I like this idea because we have to get the part of ourselves that's so concerned to basically relax and really enjoying the party.
Yes,
like you're saying, you know, like, and I like that. I like that idea of just. It's like giving a toy. It's like helping the kid to remember you're a child. You're supposed to be playing and enjoying life. It's the very concern and the seriousness that's bringing about this illusion of problems. Because, like you said, the love is not holding anything against us. We find out we're the only ones at the end of the day. When we hold stuff against ourselves and other people, we're the only ones who can block the flow of this good.
Well, yeah, and the thing is to not allow the overall consciousness around us, which is very easy to do. You know, even I just heard a recent Reverend Ike say, he goes, when I read the newspaper, I am very picky.
Yes.
Because he's saying that this idea of concern is also used. I mean, concern has been the worst currency to motivate people during the last, 60 years that I've been alive, and I'm sure it's been going on a lot longer than that.
Right.
But concern is everywhere. It's being used everywhere. Concern is used in advertising.
Right.
Concern is used in political election times.
Right.
It's always bringing up concern.
Yes.
Concern.
Right.
Well, concern never brings about a positive resolution to anything.
It's so true.
So we have to always snap ourselves out of that spell.
Yes.
Realize, do like Reverend Ike, pick and choose the news you read. Even Ed and I will talk about things like, oh yeah, I saw the title of that YouTube last night, but I didn't want to press play.
Yes.
And maybe one of us will, because we both know for ourselves, we really have to pick and choose what we put into our heads.
Yes.
Because, just like they say in computer programming, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And I got so much garbage in there from preceding years.
Right.
The littlest piece of garbage.
Right.
And you know what? And it's my own choosing.
Yes.
Because I choose to watch that movie, or
That's
I choose to press play on that YouTube, or I choose to read that little snarky article.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? It's just like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because my mind tells me, this won't hurt me.
That's right.
Like it was like
Right.
reading this, I'm just getting informed.
I know, and we said I did the same thing last night, but like the hour before I went to bed, I made the mistake of doing like a sneaky little search about something political. And I couldn't sleep all night. I kept waking up. It was horrible. But the good news is we got an email from positivechristianity.org. Chris
Yes.
Chenoweth, an amazing minister. He has his own independent ministry now. I think he came from Unity, though. And it's positivechristianity.org, I believe. And he said... Positive, yeah. It's... we got to look that up because I thought that one... We'll look it up. We'll
make
after
sure.
the break. But because you don't want to go to the wrong one. Apparently Hitler also had a positive Christianity organization, so be careful. Anyway, but... He said, and this is amazing. It goes right with the thing here that the show description. Faith in God, and this is really faith in life, faith in the truth.
Yes.
Faith in principle. It's a deep inner knowing that the good you are seeking is always seeking you.
Yes.
When Jesus was praying, he always gave thanks in advance because he knew without a doubt that the good that he was seeking was already his. And believe it or not, the good that all of us are seeking is already ours. That's what all the things we're talking about are, just ways to sort of trick yourself or guide yourself into the flow of life where the good you're seeking is already there.
Because when we break free of the concern, this happens faster.
That's right.
The results, the desire comes faster.
That's right.
But when the concern is there, I'm not stopping my good from coming, but I am certainly pushing it away, or you could say slowing everything down.
Yeah, we're either receiving it or repelling it. There's no in between. So, and that's why repelling it feels so bad, and that's why finding a way to anesthetize that part enough to all we need to do is let it in, like you said. When the coma puts that part of our brain out of commission, it just lets the life flow again.
Yes, and the concern feels bad, and that's why, because we're rejecting our good when we're concerned.
Right, because it has no power unto itself. The bad feeling is not coming from the power of some evil or bad. It's the pain of resisting the only power there is, which is good, which is life. So faith contains within itself tremendous power to heal, to bless, and to bring good into manifestation in your life. And this is where affirming the good, or like Darrell's been talking about a lot, being grateful in advance, it unlocks this power. Because it's the obvious. Someday people are going to look back on humans, or if another race of a creature came to the earth, they'd be like, these people tell themselves their life is worse than it is all day long, and then they wonder why they don't feel good. It's just insanity. But let's take our breaths and then go to our break, and then we can get on another roll of some of your readings.
We got that one for the comeback.
So let's take a breath first to clear our mind. Oh, we should say, because you said it's something good. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in line at Starbucks.
Yeah, whatever it is, you could use these 3 breaths. If you're getting frustrated in the line at Starbucks, or if it's something scary like finances, whatever the degree of the situation, anytime you start feeling concern crop up, these breaths you can use on your mind.
And you're going to have to just dummy down and do it. Because when I'm at work, the other day I heard the inner voice say, stop trying so hard, let God do it. But I was so in a state of doubt in that moment. I was like, yeah, what's that going to do for me? This is me 2 days ago, 3 days ago. If I get in that negative thought field, this stuff starts to be like, yeah, what good is that? But thankfully, I have Darrell to talk to. I have these books to read. I have these teachers in my life and people that we can text to, remind us. So let's take one more deep breath. The way out of this mess is to expect the best.
The way out of this mess is to expect the best.
The way out of this mess is to expect the best. All right, I'm expecting the best because coming up next is joyful Johnny Franzese, a.k.a. Matt Pazzarelli. He will have us all expecting the best for ourselves and each other with today's daily word, prosperity. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is called We Always Get What We Expect with Johnny Franzese. Actually, one of the things that inspired our description today,
yes,
which is
this is heaven, quote, folks.
Yes, Sue Hodgson sent us this through a daily email we get, and it's from Mary Kupferle from the book Trust is in the Goodness of God. Any Mary Kupferle book is chock full of medicine. This quote right here: begin to relax and know that God is leading you out of what appears to be less than the best into the very best. Choose now to believe it, expect it, and give thanks for it. Choose now. So begin to relax. That's what you're talking about, the anesthesia. Because now the more I think about this, it's the paradox that relaxing, letting go of our thinking, then leads to an awakening because we don't we almost like let go of the nightmare we were having. So I like that. So begin to relax and know that God, or just life, you don't have to even call it God. Life, reality is everything, because the Taoists just call it the way. Life is just leading you out of what appears to be less than the best into the very best. You'll always look back. I always look back and realize I'm the one who kept fighting to keep myself in bad situations. In the time, I was blaming everyone else, but when I look back, I realize I'm the one who was always keeping myself stuck there. So just trust that life is leading you out, even if your rational mind doesn't understand how. Choose now to believe it, expect it, and this is what Darrell's been saying a lot of, and this is the medicine. Give thanks that the good already exists, because all you're really doing is convincing your own brain to see what's already there. And you got a great reading.
Yeah, we're not fooling ourselves. We're not tricking ourselves into thinking positive.
Yeah.
No, this is not just self-hypnosis. This is actually hooking up with the laws of life that are always renewal, new, bringing about new life.
Right.
Realigning, reclaiming. Even we were going over the word recover means to reclaim. Recover comes from the Latin word recuperare, which sounds like recuperate, which is also synonymous. And it actually means to reclaim this spiritual life, reawakening, rediscovering. So Ed and I are considering, this current reawakening to this new way of thinking, this new thought that has been getting lost its way a little bit in churches, as really ignorant wizards reclaiming their superpower of belief. Because we also last show discovered that ignorant doesn't mean we're just mentally challenged.
Right.
It actually means to ignore.
Right.
So for a long time, we've been ignoring that we really do have the power.
Yeah, right. And that's why I like recover. You can't recover something that wasn't yours already.
That's right.
You can't ignore something that's not already true.
That's right.
So that is like the aha moment that you always have when you say funniest thing, because it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Yes.
Life is amazing. It was me all along thinking that nightmare.
So reinforcing all that is a reading called You Are Master by Sue Sicking. And she was the Unity minister who brought Unity out here to the Los Angeles area. Mm-hmm. And this is what she had to say in a 1968 Unity magazine article.
Thank you, Michael Schoonover, once again.
You are master. The dynamic power of the mind has been used only sporadically by mankind, usually in connection with some secret religious rite. But this energy within the human form makes all electricity and atomic power seem a mere dribble. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is in the midst of you," it was a most profound announcement of the opening of an age of which we are only now becoming aware. The kingdom, this power, this mind substance within us is available at all times when we lay hold of it by believing. Jesus told us the simplest way when he said, whoever does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Believing, just like expecting, is a cosmic force. And to wrap it up, listen to this, folks.
Oh, man, let's hear it.
With the action of mind, we touch a source that cannot be depleted. This particular state of mind so affects all the invisible forces in people and things around us that new doors open, new ways are provided without our using any outer methods. When we turn our mind toward plenty and refuse ideas of lack or tight money or hard times, when we pour our living words of faith, which is joyful expectancy, into the ethers around us and act as if we believe what we say we will have, you are the absolute master in the realm of your mind. You can do anything with the thoughts of your mind. You can decree failure and lack or God's abundance. It's up to you. You can substitute one thought for another. Do not let yourself down by taking what you do not want in life or by failing to have God's all-providing good that is yours. All necessary material goods come when you keep the divine law of the mind. Think plenty, talk plenty, love life.
Dude, yes. And you got to do a morning routine. If you're going to live this stuff, wake up in the morning, read some inspired reading, do some meditation of the simpler the better, and then affirm some things. And that's what this show is really about, affirming, but you have to do the inspired reading or the meditation to let go, wake yourself up from the nightmare you've been having, and then start affirming you're good. Today I had to say, this feels horrible because I've had some mental patterns that have been going on so long that I've had a high tolerance to feeling terrible. Today I just had to say, this feels horrible. I don't know what I'm going to do different, but I'm doing it different today. I'm affirming the good. And when I was surfing before the show this morning, I had this awareness that I had this awareness that, that's funny. It's so mental. This is why everyone focuses on the mind, because as soon as my mind reawakens to the idea of God, this goodness, this truth, as soon it's a light bulb that goes on, and it's a mental thing. Once that happens, everything else transforms for the better. You know what I'm saying? So, and then Chris Chenoweth, one last thing he said was in this little 52-week spiritual program that we got from the once again, from Positive Spirituality. What's it called? PositiveChristianity.org is what it actually is. Oh, thank goodness. And he says, this is your time and your moment. It is a sacred decision made by you to begin again, reinventing your life for the better. You're not defined by your biography. You're defined by your decisions that you make right now. This is a fresh new opportunity given to you by God. Congratulations on taking the first step that all the great women and men whom we know of and revere have taken before you. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary lifetime is not that great a distance when embarked on spiritually. And that's what we're talking about. So don't just sit here and listen to Darrell and Ed. There comes a time where you and read all this stuff. You got to claim it for yourself. There's a power in claiming it for yourself, in reclaiming it, as Darrell said. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you want to send us anything, Funniest Thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. We love getting mail. Send it on in.
Like Kirky. You could send us postcards like our friend Kirk from Germany does.
Yes. We got something in our mailbag from Greg Novak from Santa Barbara. He said, Darrell and Ed, you are the funnest and funniest spiritual guys to love on YouTube. Well, thank you. We also got a prayer request. I don't think he knew it was a prayer request, but it's from Dylan CR on YouTube. So Archie Boston said that he learned that by trusting his intuition, which is what he calls his religion, his connection to the divine, by trusting in this, that he no longer had to worry about worldly things. This is a man, he's 79 years old, he's black, he was like the Dave Chappelle of marketing, literally, back in the day.
Of design and he's one of the top 30 madmen in the history of advertising.
And he was doing it when it was not easy.
He was the first first of all, the first all-black ad agency, him and his brother, Boston, and it was started, folks, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Not in the 90s. Oh, God, racism. No, this was in the 60s where you couldn't drink out of different water fountains below the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
And this guy did it all, man.
Yeah.
You should listen to that episode.
Yeah, so we had a clip of him talking about how he doesn't fear worldly things. Like he mentioned COVID, he mentioned politics. He
mentioned all of them. He goes, I don't concern myself with racism, with any of these things.
Right, and is he saying that these things aren't out there, or is he trying to be conspiratorial? No, he's saying that when we live by these principles, faith, and we connect with our intuition, we don't have to worry about anything. We are divinely guided. So Dylan CR on YouTube commented just wrong. And you know what I realized? Dylan CR, we are going to affirm that you are going to awaken to exactly, because I would like to see Dylan CR create an all-black ad agency in the 60s and become highly successful, and then talk about what's wrong and what's right.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear and it's no, I'm not here just to judge, but I realize that I'm not here to judge. I'll throw a little bit of it in there just because, you took the time to comment, so I figured I would take the time to affirm the truth as well. I know what it's like when you don't know this is real. I understand it's a scary world. It's a scary world, and under that premise, it makes sense. Like, because he might hear that as like, what are you going to do? Just sit there and do nothing? And I'll tell you what, we're not just sitting here doing nothing. Darrell and I help many people. We don't necessarily put it out, talk about all the time, except on the show we share stories, but you will do more by tapping into your intuition. You will do more to help people with whatever is going on, COVID, if you're tapped into this divine, true sense of security and power, because then you will have a light to shine and share with others. So that's my 2 cents on that. So thank you for your comment, Dylan CR. We'd love to hear it. Darrell Hennon and PJ Bananigan subscribe to our YouTube channel, so thank you. Check out our website, darrellanded.com. Thank you to our chief engineer in Kansas City, Kansas. His name is Jeff Comfort, and he handles all of our podcasts edits, and each week
he takes us
right into the comfort zone. Yes. And shout out to Indy over here at CHOBO Studios. Say hello, Indy.
Hey, everybody. Hey, love it. Love every week. And also, love Dylan CR. God bless the man.
I agree wholeheartedly. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just for taking the time. So, yeah, it got me inspired today. So thank you, Dylan CR. If you want to come out to CHOBO Studios, chobostudios.com is where to go. He's also got PodShuttle, which is what is that, .io?
PodShuttle.io. We'll take your podcast, we'll edit it, we'll post it, we'll host your RSS feed, all your podcast stuff, and hit the mic. And you can come to the studio, chobostudios.com.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So thank you. Shout out to the prayer line, Silent Unity. I used it myself this week. It's 800 now pray, 800-669-7729. Matt got kicked off. I don't know where he is. He said, "Am I done?" He just texted us. Johnny Franzese. He's not on there right now. Our guest, by the way.
Maybe he thought he was talking. All right. We just experienced a little technical difficulties somewhere in the United States.
This is a very rare type of technical difficulty that you're only going to get on Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
That's right. Our guest, Johnny Franzese, who was formerly in witness protection, all of a sudden couldn't stick around and jumped off the air.
He had to slide back into the witness protection program. What can you do, man?
But the good news is now that we do our show at CHOBO Studio, and a lot of our audience already knows the guy in the booth, Indy. Indy's actually going to, and he is forced to pay attention, hopefully. He wasn't checking his Instagram feed while he was doing the first segment in there, which I doubt. So Indy is going to be our fill-in.
Yeah. Well, you know what? One thing before you say anything, Indy, is I heard you guys talking about this. I want to just put this out there to our listeners and people watching on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
Which is, this is a great book called It Works by R.H.J. It's the famous little red book that makes your dreams come true. We found it when we went up to see Kathy Norman speak at Unity of Santa Barbara.
And I just want to let folks know, this book is everything we're talking about in today's episode in a tiny little pamphlet that was actually not that we took this episode from this pamphlet,
right?
But this pamphlet is something to carry around with you to reinforce these ideas. This was published originally in 1926.
Yeah.
And it's by R.H.J. because the guy was a successful businessman. However, he did not want to be known as the personality behind this book. So to this day, people have lost knowledge of who R.H.J. really was.
He actually said he knew that giving with expecting any acclaim as a result was not the way to live. He wanted to just give without expecting any
we do our show.
Yeah. And he says in here, if you're earnest about changing your present condition like we were describing, here's a concise, definite, resultful plan with rules, explanations, and suggestions. And part of the plan is to write down on paper, in order of their importance, the things and conditions you really want.
Yes.
Do not be afraid of wanting too much. Go the limit in writing down your wants.
Yes, be extravagant. That's what Mike Dugan helped me do.
There will always be changes and additions with accomplishments and increasing desires. And the 3 rules for him are: read the list of what you want 3 times each day, morning, noon, and night. You can just read it whenever you need to shift your mind back into, and it doesn't even have to be the list. But the point is, the list is taking your mind off of what you don't want and putting it onto what you do want, which actually turns out to be the divine reality. Think of what you want as often as possible. Do not talk to anyone about your plan, except to the great power within you, which will unfold to your objective mind the method of accomplishment. You could tell it to other people like Darrell and Ed or friends that believe in this stuff, but don't go telling it to the wrong people like, Mom and Dad, I'm going to do this. Okay, there's no need to analyze how this power within you is going to accomplish your desires. Such a procedure is as unnecessary as trying to figure out why a grain of corn placed in fertile soil shoots up a green stalk, blossoms, and produces an ear of corn containing hundreds of grains, each capable of doing what the one grain did. We don't need to know how it works. That's what's amazing.
Well, that's why the title of the book is It Works, meaning you just got to expect. Well, like Sue Sicking said, believing is the secret. Believing is the activity that we participate in. Right. This is a plan of action. Yes, but the action isn't going around trying to make everything right like I used to think.
Yeah.
And sometimes still think, I got to do something.
Right.
No, the activity, the biggest action is within our mind, and the activity is believing. Or expecting.
Yeah. I mean, even this Matt Pazzarelli, Johnny Franzese sliding back into the witness protection program, it ended up waking me up.
During our show.
Yeah, it happened. You think it's not things are happening that you don't want, but the key is to keep affirming that something good is happening. And actually, Indy had us breathe 3 breaths together while we took a little break to see what was going on. When I love being me, I'm weasel free. And that's the truth. I wasn't loving being me when I was stressing about what am we going to do without a guest. But once I just remembered, all I have to do is love being me. That's what's so incredible about this. And once we love being ourselves, then we see that we are divinely made. We see how great life is. We naturally start to expect the best because, look, we've gotten this far. And when we see that we're amazing and divinely made, then we know, our mind goes, oh, if I'm divinely made, then everything else must be too, and it starts to unravel and unfold. And Indy, what made you think of doing those breaths? Why do you love those breaths? What did you see happening just now that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because that episode was the first episode you guys did here, and I don't think it's because of that. I think it's basically because it was just so simple, and you can easily slunk into these thought processes that isn't you, that isn't me, and it's kind of fortuitous that this came up because I'm at the anesthesia, anesthetize. I'm actually gonna do my first. I'm gonna have a surgery on Tuesday and go under for the first time.
Right.
And there's a little innate fear there, but also I've been talking to people about it, and it's it's the best sleep of your life. Don't even worry about it. And I'm like, I have like no fear about like going to the dentist and getting Novocaine,
right?
And I'm not feeling any of that, but I'm awake and I'm hearing all the and I'm not even scared of that. So why would I be scared of something that I'm not even going to be awake for? Right. So
I love that.
So I've kind of just been like.
What are the chances of this show, the idea of anesthetizing,
right,
become the topic du jour out of the blue? It wasn't in our description.
Why would my mind even I've heard you say it before. For some reason today, my mind wanted to really think about it,
and now it just happens to be something you're actually going to be experiencing,
and it helps you to change your expectation. Yes. I can tell you when my hip got upgraded. That was the best sleep I'd had in ages. I went to sleep at 11:30 a.m. Woke up at 5 p.m. or 5 hours later or something, and I felt like $1 million. And I also had that kind of fear. But you know what? It turned out to be just like this stuff. It just turned out to be me letting go and trusting and realizing, like, wow.
Yeah.
Because we could start to fear like the medical world, or this spiritual stuff can be almost like a mask for our fear of doctors or whatever. But it just helped me marvel at how effective that stuff is, and that I don't have to be afraid. And literally my hip is better off now. Somehow they could take a small bone and perfectly put screws and re-screw basically my femur to the ball joint, and all of this could turn out to be so positive. It turned out to be a very good thing for me, so I'm looking forward to hearing the good news from you. Yeah,
thank you. And there was a point I think Darrell was saying, like, it's our fear and pushing away of the problem that makes it worse, or the denying that it is a problem. And just with my specific case with the surgery coming up, I had seen this doctor a year ago,
right?
And they said, it's elective. You don't have to do it. You can wait till Christmas or whenever it's right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I don't have to do anything, basically. And I'm like, how bad can it get if I do nothing? And they're like, well, this can happen. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's not terrible. And then a year to the day, that appointment, I looked it up in my calendar. A year to the day, this year, it got double worse. And I had to go, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. Like I need to take care of this, I'm like, I'm denying that it's a problem rather than facing the fear, facing what needs to get done in order to be healthy, because I'm the healer. Right. They're just facilitating that. Right. And I'm denying that healing.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's not that you're denying there's something wrong. It's you hit the nail on the head. It's I'm denying my healing.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
No, and you don't have to. That's the good news. And now you got people that are going to be affirming the best. So you got all this positive vibration going throughout the whole experience that definitely will affect it for the better.
And I'm actually kind of excited.
You should be,
because like I feel like they probably typical people getting surgery are probably down in the dumps and like probably really scared and oh God, what's gonna happen? I want to go in there and have a party.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like and because that's only going to make the process even easier. What song could I go to sleep to?
Right.
Like play some CCR or something. Some Zeppelin or something.
You will make their day, and those people, we minister to whoever we're around, and that's what happened to me when I was in the hospital too. Once I saw people's worried expressions, I knew I didn't want it. I called in Terry McBride, a minister, to pray with me. I started blessing everyone and letting them know it was going to go well, and I appreciated them. You're going to love it. And the daily word that our friend Johnny was going to read before he had to slide out of here, his name, it was from Wednesday, September 14th. It is prosperity.
We had to look at Johnny's face for that whole time.
Little Johnny Appleseed.
I know. We were subjected to his mug for over 45 minutes, and he leaves us.
Well, this is the closest we've gotten to having him on in a couple episodes. So the daily word was prosperity, and then we affirm, I am in the flow of prosperity, which is actually always true.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, like, Kathy Norman shared that story from some book she liked. Was it the Kupferle one, where there's some type of creature and they made
Richard Bach.
Oh, Richard Bach.
Yes.
Illusions? What is it?
Illusions by Richard Bach, who also wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
I love that book. And they're all clinging to the bottom, this culture of creature, of a river, and they've made a lifestyle out of...
Yeah, there was rich people, poor people.
And you got to be afraid of letting go because that current's going to destroy you. And finally, one of them lets go.
Says, screw this, I'm not hanging on any longer.
And discovers the opposite.
And he's free and he's happy and he's going with the river. And all the people still cling and go, oh my God, how heroic. And then he moves on.
Yeah.
And then they just stay clinging. But now they tell the story of a savior who came and left.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe he'll come back one day. Instead of realizing they're all the...
All he was one of us who let go and went with the flow. Now, we're all in the flow. It's just a matter, are we letting go and going with the flow? So I am in the flow of prosperity because this very much reminds me of Eric Butterworth, and he would want to make sure everyone knows that affirmations are not... They have magical results, but they're only magic because they're affirming what is already true. They're not making anything that's not true, like in a deeper sense, in this metaphysical way. They're just affirming the truth so that our mind gets into alignment, so our creative imagination starts to get its bearings and we start to cooperate with life. I am in the flow of prosperity. Even in my leanest times, even during my darkest hours, I can find blessings for which to be grateful. When I center my awareness in the presence of God, I discover abundance everywhere. That means we have to take our mind. I'm just thinking of myself at school. I have to take my mind out of all the fears and worries that are running rampant in my mind and maybe all around me and center it in the presence of God, which the ideas around me might even not even believe there is a God to center it in. But I'm coming into that presence. This awareness helps me relax and take my place in the flow of prosperity, welcoming blessings into my life and sharing freely of what I have. Living a prosperous life is a commitment to behold God in all things. It is the faith that there is enough to meet every need, and my prayerful intention and gratitude are encouraging manifestation. Prosperity is my commitment to sharing generously of myself, knowing my resources can never be depleted and my good is without limit. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. That's Psalm 36:8.
And it's perfect that it says, I am in the flow of prosperity, because believe it or not, folks, the word affluence,
Yes.
The origin of the word literally means to be in the flow or to flow with. That's
amazing.
affluence.
You know, yesterday or 2 days ago, I was coming back from eating, and we were talking to a friend of ours who was having like his own dark night of the soul, and it was so funny because he was totally in a state of, I mean, it's not funny that he was in this state, but it kind of is divinely when we think, when all this good's happening, and when I can see that all this good's happening, but his mind was telling him it wasn't, that it's too late, it's over. And I was kind of like ribbing him a little, and then all of a sudden the phone went dead, and I thought, "Oh man, is this the last time we're going to hear from this guy?"
I'm going back to mommy, to mommy, to mommy. I'm going back to mommy. And then me and Ed have to say, "I don't think so."
Yes. So anyway, but I was kind of tired. I was kind of going back to mommy because I was going back to the school district to do my job, and over there. But I was like, I got to let this go. I can't be holding on to this. I can't be holding on to anything. I got to let go and go with the flow. But I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. I get out of my car and out of the door to the school, the side door that I go through. My friend Jeff Mendoza comes out. He's a maintenance guy. He's like a head maintenance guy for the district, and I've known him for a while. And he says, "Whoa, man, you look terrible. You look like you're carrying a heavy weight." And I go, "Yeah," I had to acknowledge it. I had to just say, "Yep, you're right, I am." And he goes, "You're the man, Ed. You're the one who uplifts people. You're the one who..." And he gave me this whole talk, and he quoted a song from Styx. I forget which song.
Wow. When you're quoting Styx, you are high as a kite.
I know. And he like slapped me on the ass and sent me back into school, and I was a new man. And it's like, I didn't see that coming, but it was literally, I got out of my car. I had just affirmed, I got to let go. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And he pops out of the door and comes straight to me and ministered to me. And that's the stuff. It was the funniest thing. You never know how or when this stuff's going to come about, but it always does. But we always get, like, I just opened up my expectation to letting go. sometimes it's like I have to just let go of the part of me that's given up on being able to. Like, I have to admit, this old crappy part of me is telling me, I don't know how to let go. I can't. It's just, no, you have to say, I don't care how. Somehow this is going to happen, and I am going to be divinely inspired. And just by claiming it, affirming it, expecting it in some way, even if we're kind of faking it for a moment, it will come about.
And music is a good way to do it. And then listening to uplifting songs.
Yeah.
Are we going to sing our uplifting
Should
song?
we share the joke or no?
I think we should save that for when Johnny's on.
Why don't you guys replace Johnny with me in the joke? See if it hits. Replace the place and time with Chobo Studios and maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, we're actually
improv.
We're rewriting.
Because you do have a cat, right?
What's your cat's name?
Yeah, Mookie.
Mookie. Put Mookie in there.
Okay, great.
You're seeing this live, folks, the creative process of writing a bad joke.
So we have a great a great story about Indy.
Yes.
Fawcett.
Okay, I'll be Indy.
Not everyone knows the story. I don't even know if Indy knows the story.
Well, he's going to now.
I know. So.
Oh, and he was with us at Big Chili John's.
Oh,
that's
I
right.
love Chili John's. Yeah.
Okay.
So last Saturday,
this
after
is
the
true.
show,
This isn't a lie, folks.
Darrell and Ed, we decided to go over to Chili John's, which is an actual historical LA landmark restaurant.
Yes.
And surprisingly, Indy, the
decided to join us.
Owner, CEO, creator of CHOBO Studios, decided to join us. So we drove separately. He walked in, and man, he was looking down in the dumps. And so we said, Indy, what's wrong? You look terrible.
And Indy said, well, you would too. This is normally the day I spend playing with my cat, but today he told me he had to go to work.
We were stunned when we heard this. What do you mean your cat had to go to work?
Well, you know how my cat Mookie was always such a good law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
Well, he decided to go into claw enforcement.
That's great. I love that. This is great. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wait, it's Shirley.
All right, Shirley.
Shirley and Company.
No less.
Oh, man, ladies and gentlemen.
Tilt that mic down, Ed.
You're in for a real treat.
Yeah. That's good.
Go ahead.
A little more if you can.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. Sorry, I'm starting to remember what the song is here.
You know, can't stop me now. Come on. Come on. I've been singing this my whole life. Yeah.
Can't stop me now.
Hear what I say. My feet wanna move, so get out my way. I'm gonna find myself going to every discotheque. Gonna dance, dance, dance
to the break
of day. Shame, shame, shame. Woo! Shame on you if you can't dance too. I said shame, 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 shame on you if you can't dance too. Visit DarrellandEd.com to find easy links to everything we do. And as always, thank you for being a part of
Fawcett,
Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
Love you guys.
CHOBO
Thank
Studios.
you. Love Matt Pazzarelli.
Shame, shame, shame.
Hey, shame on you if you can't dance too. I said shame, 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 shame.
And follow the show on
shame,
Instagram
shame,
at
shame
Darrell
on
and Ed.
if you can't dance too.
Love that 7th.